Let's talk about the May edition for Yojana, and here you have universal health as one of the major features. Now, under universal health, the most important, the Ayushman Bharat, which we have covered a lot of time. The next important one here is the Arogya Setu app, and then we have the role of artificial intelligence and IoT in and telemedicines in the healthcare systems. So, let's first talk about, as per the Niti Aayog, we are talking about a competitive cooperative federalism. We are talking about bringing in competence among our healthcare parameters. The two-third of the government expenditure on health is coming from the state. So it's very, very important that only one-third of the healthcare support system is being provided by the center, the remaining two-third coming from the state. And then we have India being a signatory of the Sustainable Development. We have launched a national mission on health in 2013, which has subsumed both the aspects, the rural health as well as the urban health, and it further aims to expand providing universal healthcare coverage. As a result, you had Ayushman Bharat that was laid down, and the idea was to have free healthcare coverage mainly at the secondary and the tertiary level and serve the bottom 40% of the population. Also, we are focusing on the various parameters, which are the infant mortality, the neonatal, and the maternal mortality. Now, maternal mortality is the proportion of deaths of the mothers per thousand. The infant mortality talks about under 1 year, and then you have neonatal mortality under 28 days. So neonatal mortality is one of the most vulnerable sections of the society, and in India it is interesting to remember that since the neonatal age group is less than 28 days and the mortality rate also is 28 out of 1000, so that is a significantly higher proportion of mortality that is seen. 70% of the deaths in India account in the neonatal section. Also, if we are focusing on the healthcare outcomes, we are focusing on three important things. First is the outcomes of the health, the governance, and the input. We are focusing on the immunization, the vacancies that are there, the nurses, the midwives, and the Anganwadi workers that are working at the tertiary and the secondary level. Now, if we focus on to some of the quick statistics, we focus on to the health index. We have the best performing versus the least performing states. So you have Kerala as one of the best performing states in terms of bigger states, and then you have Uttar Pradesh as one of the least performing states. If we categorize it based on the index scores, we have the top 5 and the bottom 5 states. So you have the bottom 5 states which are here, and then you have the top 5 states which are here. So you have the top 5 states versus the bottom 5 states that are there. Now these indicators, what does they help us with? They help us with understanding the incentives, the financial incentives, where they should go, what is the kind of infrastructural loopholes, whether there is shortage of doctors, the shortage of midwives or nurses that is required. Also, the recent pandemic that has come into account, the COVID-19, which is one of the contagious viruses that has been talked about. We have covered COVID-19 in our series of classes on Down to Earth, where how WHO has declared this as a public health emergency across the globe, and it has been declared as a pandemic. We are also talking about the structure of the virus, how the shape of the crown is one of the major reasons the spikes are there, and because of which the sustainability or the longevity or the duration with which it could survive is higher as contrast to the other viruses that are there. Then we are also worried about the mutations that could be seen. The next is the SARS and the MERS that we have already discussed in our DTE edition. So SARS outbreak was seen in 2003, and then the Middle East respiratory syndrome in 2012. Both of those, it was believed, originated from bats. SARS went to monkeys and raccoons, and MERS went to camels, and finally was transmitted to human beings. Similarly, for COVID-19, it's believed that it was from bats to pangolins to human beings. So, what is the most vulnerable proportion of population? People above 60 years and below 10 years. And then, what were the previous names that were used for COVID-19 are also important. So, that could be again one of the probable sections that you must know. Now, what are the challenges challenges. Definitely, there could be genetic recombinations that could be seen, because of which such viruses are getting, the severity is getting increased, the spread is getting increased, and it's further believed that there would be a disease X which would be much more lethal than this COVID-19, which would be witnessed within couple of years, as per the DTE studies that we have studied in our recent edition on DTE. Now, the most contagious part is first 3 days of the infection, and then later on the proportion of contamination slowly and gradually decreases. There is also chances for reinfection, but with a shorter immunity and a shorter duration that it has been witnessed as of now. Now, there has been no streamlined treatment for it. There have been various treatments that have been worked around. It could be in the form of plasma therapy, using of chloroquine. Now, those are some of the ways through which we are trying to bring in the decline in the severity of the cases, but no such proper treatment have been recommended as of now. Also, there are certain antivirals like Remdesivir that have been used, which is also used for AIDS. Also, we are talking about the structure, the antibodies that are there, which are binding with the spike RBD. We are also focusing on the prevention. Now, prevention, we have certain guidelines that have been released by each of the nations, WHO as a one. Sanitizers with minimum 60% of alcohol is one of the major things that have been recommended, and then use of disinfectants, mask, and then talking about the natural therapy. So Ayush has been given a priority by the government. So yoga for stress-free management is one of the major aspects that we are talking about. Now, there are various postures and positions under yoga which have been discussed. If you go on to the edition, you have the various poses and the yoga mudra asanas that have been talked about. So those are some of the ways through which stress management could be done. The lung capacities could be enhanced. So hands in, breathe out, hands stretching exercises. Then you have the Vibhang pranayam, you have Kapal Bharti, then you have Bhastrika breathing. So those are some of the major ones that we have focused on. So the list of those would be available in the handout. You can refer those. The next is strengthening our healthcare systems. Now, the idea behind the lockdown was to flatten the curve, and the sole idea was not to have undue pressure on the healthcare system. As a result, we have the various healthcare departments that are working for it, and we are slowly and gradually looking forward that there is no steep rise in the proportion of cases, so that the healthcare infrastructure does not tumble. Again, if we talk about the Indian scenario, we have witnessed a huge progress in terms of life expectancy, which was nearly 37 at the time of independence, which has gone up to 65 as of now. We are also focusing on the growth of the PHCs, the public health centers, as well as the community health centers. The proportion of infant mortality rate has significantly declined. The proportion of maternal mortality rate has declined. Then we are also talking about the spread of the communicable diseases. The vaccinations have come up very nicely. Previously, the number of polio cases, and as of now, there has been a tremendous change and a significant reduction. It's near to being eliminated from the system. Also, there are other challenges that are growing for the healthcare practice. Now, what kind of challenges these are? These are in the form of non-communicable diseases like cancer, diabetes, kidney diseases, heart diseases. So those are due to the changing lifestyle, sedentary lifestyle, higher consumption of alcohol, smoking, or unhealthy lifestyle with lack of physical activity that is seen. The next is the health financing in India. Now, when we focus on health financing of India, most of the burden is on to the individual. That is, the out-of-pocket expenditure is very, very higher as in contrast to other nations where there has been universal healthcare. For example, Canada, which has been one of the major examples to quote. Now, Ayushman Bharat has been brought about in order to reduce this out-of-pocket expenditure. So how this expenditure has significantly declined, we have certain statistics from 2014 to the current scenario, and the text to GDP ratios across various countries, which would reveal how the proportion of expenditure is being met by the government. So in Denmark, we can see we have nearly 16% in contrast to India, where we have only 5% of it. So those are some of the important issues that we focus on. Now, the next important thing is the doctors per population. In India, it's merely 0.8 doctors per population. However, in countries like Australia, China, you have 4 to 5 doctors per 1,000 population in the country. So definitely the ratio of trained doctors and the skilled healthcare workforce is significantly low in India, and that needs to be increased. Also, we are talking about moving to artificial intelligence. Now, even in the case of COVID, we have seen there were sanitizers that were being sprayed outside the buildings in most of the nations, which were hands free, so you do not have any kind of physical contact with that. Also, there was use of robotic devices to have thermal screening of the patients. So those are some of the ways under which artificial intelligence has been used. Speedy diagnosis, therapy selection, reducing the medical errors, improving the productivity are some of the things that we look when we focus on bringing in artificial intelligence to healthcare systems. Now, this could be in various fields. It could be in radiology, which is one of the most easiest way out. You have reading of X-rays, MRI, CT scans. Similarly, we have the issues related to dermatology, issues related to pathology, ophthalmology, where AI and the role of AI has significantly increased over the years. Similarly, we have diabetic retinopathy, which is being conducted by Arvind Eye Care Systems and Shankar Netralaya. Both of those have been using AI-based algorithms for diabetic retinopathy. Also, we are focusing on extending the medical literature, bringing in optimal treatment, and if that optimal treatment cannot be met by artificial intelligence, those would be referred to the individual doctors. The next is how do we focus on to the issues which are related to the social cultural setup of the society. Let's say if we bring artificial intelligence into a rural area, whether it would be accepted by the people there. So changing the mindset, bringing in a behavioral change in the human being is a significant challenge when it comes to a country like India. Also, we are focusing on algorithms based on machine learning and natural language processing, so that the information could be easily absorbed from the patient, and then similar kind of treatment mechanisms could be devised. A good example of using AI systems in the Beijing railway station has been seen, where computer vision and infrared sensors were installed to predict the human temperatures of those traveling in the train and going on to the railway stations. Similarly, what we are focusing, India right now is focusing a severe crisis of good health infrastructure at the secondary and the tertiary level, with a lot of migrants going back to their towns, reverse migration taking in. The burden on the secondary and the tertiary healthcare infrastructure has significantly increased. So AI could be a revolutionary breakthrough if can be brought about in these areas. Again, we are talking about the decision-making systems, how the systems could become much more explainable, much more advanced, and could also maintain the privacy of the individual. So we also have the Internet of Things going into the healthcare systems, where we are focusing on the wearable consumer electronics. We are talking about automated manufacturing functions related to collection of data, transfer of data, factories, how the transportations could be done. Manufacturing of ventilators as of now under the COVID situation is again important. Then we are focusing on how virtual employees can have audio and video chats. So a good example was seen in Dubai Electricity and Water Authority, which was known as DEWA. You have artificial intelligence intelligence being used, or AI powered virtual employee which has been created, which can help customers with all the tasks, be it the billing, be it the request to get electricity connection, request to get water services, any kind of job queries. So all the human jobs have been slowly and gradually replaced by AI jobs under what we say the Industrial Revolution 4.0, and therefore there has been a significant loss in the job structure that has also been seen. IoT has also been used in hospitals significantly, mainly for scheduling systems, monitoring of the patients, and keeping the medical records. So those are some of the ways under which IoT is being used in the hospitals. When it comes to managing the patient care, reducing the burden on the nursing staff, in the cases where the staff is where there is surplus staff, that could also be relieved because of the IoTs coming up. So definitely there has to be a change in the healthcare systems and the healthcare provisions that are existing in the India, in a country like India. The weak public healthcare system fails to operate numerous sub-segments. It could be related to pharmacy, it could be related to surgical instruments, it could be related to pathological or laboratory systems in India. So those are where we have a significant lack of trained manpower, significant lack of medical and also the paramedical forces that are required to work. So the re-engineering of the medical system, the transition of the medical system is very, very important. Now when we focus on the global trade in the health services, we have 4 different modes that have been talked about under the WTO editions for the trade services. So the first mode talks about the general agreement on trades in the services related to healthcare with the consumption abroad. The second talks about the cross-border consumption. The third focuses on the commercial presence, and the fourth talks about the natural persons that are involved there. Also we have various natural disasters that have significantly increased, be it the example of Amphan in the form of cyclones, be it any kind of natural calamity, be it a volcanic disaster, be it an earthquake that has been witnessed. All these are also putting an extra pressure onto the healthcare related systems. Let's say with the cyclones coming in, you have higher proportion of vector-borne diseases that are seen in areas like Bengal and Bihar as of now. Similarly, we are focusing on aspect where we focus on a holistic development of individual. So how could this be brought about? So financial inclusion is one of the ways through which this has been brought about. Maintaining a self-reliant infrastructure mainly for energy is again important, because energy is again one of the major components being utilized in the hospitals and the healthcare systems of India. We need to bring in a change in the thought process, as we said. So bringing in modern thoughts and modern ideas even in the rural areas, bringing in advanced and precision manufacturing, which is very, very important to develop the healthcare system. So when we focus on Atmanirbhar, we are having an idea that those precision industries should come to India, and only then the healthcare structure, the AI systems, the machine learning systems, be it the IoT systems, could be strengthened. Also, we are focusing on a platform. As we said, Arogya Setu is one of the apps that have been released by the government. Similarly, we have another idea, which is a platform for citizens engagement, which is known as the COVID India Seva, and it is a direct communication channel between the Indians and the authorities. So all those systems have come into play under the Digital India. Also, when we focus on the post-COVID scenario, how would the revival of economy take place? So Make in India is one of the major initiatives. Commercialization of the local technologies, the indigenous technologies, strengthening the rural healthcare infrastructure in India, and reducing the imports have been some of the issues that we focus on. The next important thing is how these developments have come up. So for example, automatic mist-based sanitizer dispensing units have been coming up, where there has to be no contact with the sanitizers, and there is as you enter onto the gate, you would have the sanitizers which would be sprayed to your hand. These are alcohol based sanitizers. Similarly, you have UV sanitization boxes that have come up, and these are mainly based on UV, the ultraviolet rays C that has been seen, and which is of the wavelength of 254 nanometers. Also, we are focusing on various e-learning things that are coming up with the education being reformed under the COVID situation. We have online learning resources and online learning platforms that have increased. Now here is a list of various education portals being released by the government. What we need to consider is all of those we have covered in one of our separate lectures. So it could be in the form of MOOC courses, Swayam Prabha, ePathshala. You have role of InflipNet, Diksha for the teachers training. You have Vidwan portal. Similarly, you have Shodh Gangotri. You have eYantra, which is focusing on robotics, artificial and virtual labs, which we are focusing on. Then you have Gyanvani, which is a IGNOU's program on FM radio, also focusing on pre-education till higher secondary and college education. We are also focusing on the target groups. Now, what are the target groups? As we said, doctors, nurses, paramedic staffs, midwives, Anganwadi workers have been our paramount focus. Also, we are talking about some of the major issues that need to be focused as of now. These include clinical management, control of infection, quarantine, isolation facilities, talking about sampling, collection of data. Similarly, who is the real warrior? So you have the Swasthya Sipahi, who are providing essential services during this time, mainly the pharma companies, the people involved as pharmacists. Similarly, you have the Jan Aushadhi Sugam, which is end-to-end sales software application that is there, and it maintains that there is no out of stock situation that occurs. So Jan Aushadhi Sugam is again very important concept that you need to remember for your upcoming examination. We also have numerous virtual lead programs that have come up. These could be in the form of G20 Virtual Leader Summit. We are also bringing in a lot of liquidity into the system in order to boost or revive the economy. There has been targeted long-term operations. You are refinancing the facilities, providing loans, bringing in microfinancing institutions are the role play, reducing the reverse repo rates, raising the limit and the ways under which the advances could be made, and the recognition of non-performing assets, the time duration for moratorium, all those have been taken into account. Also, how the works have been done over this time has been taken into account. So Corona Warriors is one of the major themes that we focus on. Now, who all are part of it? So you have the list of workers who are actively on field providing essential care and services are part of this field. And then we have a tool to understand the human resource, which is helping to combat this situation. So the proportion of MBBS doctors, nurses, the hospitals, support hospitals, and so on. So this image from the Yojana gives a clear picture about it. Arogya Setu app, as we already said, is already available in 11 languages which are mentioned here. It's a mobile app based on public-private partnership model, and you have the risk calculations for the infection that is taking place. Also, it helps to bridge the differences between the public and the private sector. Digital technology provide potential for young India. Hydrochloroquine, we have already discussed, is a drug for malaria from the bark of Chinchona plant, and this is being considered to be useful in reducing the extent of the damage being caused by COVID-19 in many of the patients. Then we also focus on telemedicine, which is remote diagnosis and treatment of the patients. So that is again very important. So those were some of the major highlights that we have covered in this edition. We would be covering many more editions of Yojana and Kurukshetra on a regular basis. So stay subscribed. Feel free to connect to us for any further queries. Have a wonderful day ahead.